So, if you have a spotlight and it's not working, how do you fix it? Well, this is that. As I'm sure you know, there's a myriad of ways these things can fail. But first we have to understand the basics of how they work. Power is supplied through the single power cable, goes through the back of the handle, through a contact point in the back of the handle, along the innermost diameter of the shaft, to a gear assembly, to a pin, which goes right through the stem, and to the back of the light head. The light is grounded simply between the body panels of the car, which is to say the screws that will go through this and hold it to the car. And maybe if this touches against any metal inside of the A-pillar, but primarily it's the screws. So, as in the scientific method of troubleshooting, we start with the simplest thing first and then move to the most complicated. Now, get out your Leatherman and you're going to want to loosen this bolt here and take off the handle assembly, or tighten it up and make sure that it's getting good contact. Just loosen it up. Now, if they've been put in properly, this wedge will be extremely tight. So you can either kind of bang on the opposite end of this, or, as I will sometimes do, completely take out the nut, put it on the other side, and then kind of pry or wedge it out that way from the other side. But this one is on pretty loose. Okay, so not that loose. So as you see here, I'll just kind of tighten this down a bit, careful, because fantastic way to scratch the shit out of the handle, and then we kind of just pry it up. And out she comes. Now, as I've mentioned before, this is the example of the cheap shit alloy, zinc alloy, or whatever the fuck it is, wedge. Pretty much, single use, because when you clamp it down, it deforms. Very shit. I don't know, and I hope not, that this is the current model that Unity supplies you with. On their website, this is the picture shown. I really hope it isn't, because it's shit. The one you want is that solid brass one. Maybe if you look at my other videos on the spotlights, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So this is shit. Try and avoid this if you can. Okay, so once you've done that, you want to make sure that you can see the slot over here through the hole in the handle. The contact point, if you get a flashlight, you'll be able to see it in the end there. It basically presses against this brass part right here. That's the positive power. So that's to say that it's not making good contact at the back of the handle. The guy in the back here is spring-loaded, and you could feel it when you push this in. So if you're pushing this in, and you see how it's springy, you want it to stay down there as you tighten up this wedge. So if you're not able to get it tight, and it's just springing a thing in on you, you need to get a new wedge. Or if your notch here doesn't look like this and it's all worn to shit, you're probably gonna have to replace that shaft or entire spotlight, because it's not grabbing on there and it's not giving you a good contact. If you have the problem where the head of your light is not rotating, that could very well be that this diameter here is broken. You'll see when I turn the light head, you'll be able to see it turning. See how it turns like that? That's what the key in the handle grabs to rotate the light head. So if your head's not turning, that could be broken. The notching in the tube here, the outer brass tube, see how it's notched? If I turn it, see there's only so much? That's what dictates the degrees of rotation. See, here's the little key in the handle. You can maybe see it right there. That's what it catches. All the handles are the same and totally interchangeable. The only difference is going to be how that tube is notched. So if you have the vehicle specific ones, it's you can't adjust it from the bracket. If you have the ones that have a slot in the bracket where you clamp it down and you can adjust it yourself, then that's how that's done. Okay, so we've tried adjusting our handle. We verified that we have a good contact to ground. Another way you can do that is, put a multimeter on the metal here or on the screw, and then on a good body part of the car, and see if you're getting continuity. So we'll move down, and then we're going to take off this screw in the end here. That's a brass screw, and that's going to free up this cap here. You may need something fine, like a very thin flathead screwdriver or something, to get this off, because they can stick. Be careful with this brass screw, because you can break it. Put some oil on it if you have to. Warm it up with a lighter. Not too warm, you don't want to melt the grease in there, but be careful, because they can and will break. So then this comes off like that. There's an O-ring here, or at least there should be, and this exposes the gear assembly. You can see where this part is making contact with the shaft. That's where the positive power comes from. So it could be that that's all corroded out, or simply broken. But you'll see as I turn the head how it always maintains contact. So that may be where your problem lies. If not, moving down along the light. Also, I should actually mention first, if you open this and water or rusty water comes out, that's not a good sign. That means that this thing has been leaking water, and you're going to need to take the whole thing apart and clean it. So to remove the bulb and expose the contacts in the back, I'm sure you can figure that out. If you can't, you probably shouldn't be trying this anyway. This is the 325/380 style with the 3 screws, and this thing simply comes off. There's the other, the SO4, which I have right here, and it has 1 hex bolt, and then you kind of twist it, and it's like a twist lock sort of thing. So don't be trying to pry this off with a screwdriver. Take out the thing and twist it. That's how it comes off. You can see it actually even tells you here. Lock and unlock on the edge. I don't know if it's going to focus, but that's how that works. So we're going to take out these screws. So not a whole lot going on back here. This center piece here is your positive, and then ground obviously through the ground. This is an LED bulb, so the connections are as such. But it could be that sometimes this guy will come off. This piece here is supposed to be well lubricated within the shaft so that it can do 360s, but it can happen that these come off. If you're rotating it and it's flickering, that's again a problem with the contact in the back of the handle, or unusual, but sometimes the contact in the shaft here, and that would be either it's gotten dirty or maybe the spring has worn out. But 9.9 times out of 10, it's the handle not making contact in the back, or bad contact to ground. In case you can't figure out how to get the bulb back in, you have these 2 notches, and if you have the traditional bulb like this, you can see there's a little bracket that fits in there. On this LED style bulb, you can see that we have a little wedge right here which has to fit in, and that's what allows it to sit flat so we can get the cover back on. Otherwise you're going to have some trouble. So the last thing I wanted to show you was the switch in the handle section. It is also possible these can have a short or can wear out. Simply 2 Phillips head screws, one here, one on the other side, and then this little cap comes off. You can see this is the little switch assembly. Sometimes this guy can get all cruddy, and you may want to clean them off with a little piece of emery cloth or a wire brush. And you can see get some light. Okay, right here is where it flips back and forth and makes contact. If you undo the screw up here, that's going to release this switch assembly, and you can also see the gearing in here as I turn it. So that can be one other thing to check. If you were to try and replace the wire on this is how you do it. It's one little solder joint right there, and the wire comes out. That's really all there is to it. If you're having serious problems with ground, you can kind of try and attach a wire to this metal here somewhere where it's not going to short out, and you can run 2 wires, one for power, one for ground. But that's pretty much it. As I say, 9 times out of 10 your problem is that the pin isn't making contact in here, or you're getting a bad ground from the shaft or the screws to the body of the car. So if you're having troubles, hopefully this will help you troubleshoot them out.